welcome everyone to the beautiful WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in beautiful California as we get all set to go to start another wonderful 60, another season of 60 plus racing adventures. Live on RaceSpotTV. I'm Justin Prince on the booth. Today's David Haynes, Hugo Wiesen, director. See as we look at your schedule for this season. 13 rounds of action begin today, and it should be an absolutely phenomenal schedule for the road series for these drivers. As we get all set to go for today's action, the drivers have already put in their qualifying times. 37 total drivers are registered for today, and last year's season champion and Stefan Rosgen starts on the pole. He'll start alongside Donald Poole with Jean-Michel Noyon in third position. In the fourth position is Bill Lawrence with Leroy Coppedge in the fifth spot. Stephen Carter starts in sixth. In row four, it's Russ Addy and John Morgan for the rolling start. In ninth spot, it's Yurs Miller along with Bruce Poole. Rounding out your top 10 starting positions today, David.
Yeah, indeed, bumper grid here, and it continues on in 11th place with Randy Shoemake, 12th, Kenneth Duma, Kenneth Baldwin in 13th, Louis Cannell in 14th, Mark Robertson in 15th, and Bob Kern in 16th there. Paul Stump in 17th, Joel Martin in 18th, Richard Coulomb in 19th, and David Riley in 20th. Some new names, but a lot of returning ones as well on the grid.
Absolutely. Richard Valley also returned amongst the drivers today in 21st. Ralph Kemmer in 22nd. Wally Mosby 23rd. Richard Ross 24th. Gerald Fullerson and Charles Gilby start inside the top 26. Michael Hans Connect starts 27th. Scott Gallo in 28th with Bruce Granheim and Ronald McManus rounding out the top 30. Just 2 hour drivers recorded qualifying times. Fred McIntosh and Douglas Beasley. Drivers who didn't record times in the session for race number 1 today: Jay Felton, Franz Brink, Jake Turner, Mark Lisson, and Gene Moore. Those are the 37 drivers set to take the grid today in their Pro Mazdas. The 60 plus racing adventures all set to go on a challenging road course. Today's distance, 2.24 miles, 22 laps on this 11-turn circuit, but a lot of challenging parts of this racetrack. Even with the cooler track temps, you always got to be careful, especially at a turn 11 in the corkscrew here, David.
Yep, no doubt. A fixed setup, so all of our drivers with the same brake bias, the same amount of downforce, everyone with the same configuration on their cars. It all comes down to the driving skill, and well, some of these drivers have had plenty of time to gain driving experience. As you pointed out or alluded to, 2 races in tonight's round. Race 1 getting ready to start, and then race 2 a little bit later. The drivers take their best results from the 2 races as towards their championship standings. So they all want to get a good result here in race 1, but if it doesn't go to plan, that's not the end of the world and doesn't rule them out of a good round.
And keep an eye on the pole sitter though, and Rosgen coming into this season has won 4 of the past 5 championships and 5 of the past 7, entering campaign number 13. Your thoughts on him and as he brings us to the green flag to start race 1 of the season?
Yeah, definitely the driver to beat in this series right now. Not only is he quick and relatively consistent, I think it's the consistency round to round where some other drivers might be good at one circuit and not so strong somewhere else. He just picks up points every single round, and as the defending and reigning champion, he's on pole for race 1 of the new season. Someone in the background was struggling to keep it on track on the warm-up lap, but we're about to go racing.
One car is actually pulled into the garage area already, but the leaders are ready to go out of turn number 11 to bring us to the green flag. Onto the loud pedal goes Rosgen. We're underway for the 60 plus racing adventure season. And a good launch from him on the bottom side. A very slow launch though for the top side. Noyon already up to second as they crash heading into turn number 1. Drivers colliding and heading into the run into the Andretti hairpin. At least 4 or 5 drivers stopped in the track. More others stopped inside the hairpin and running to the pit exit.
Russ Addy in there, Stephen Karkner in there as well, so that's unfortunate. They were 3 wide coming over that crest, and they just sort of all merged together, and these open wheel cars, of course, don't like wheel-to-wheel contact like that. The man who is entirely unscathed and gets on with the job is Stefan Rostjen. He did get a great jump. Donald Poole, as you said, who was alongside him, pretty poor start, lost 4 positions on the way to turn 1, but avoided that carnage.
Yeah, Poole right now back into the 6th position after the slower start as the driver's making their way through the corkscrew for the first time in this race. Battle for second starts to heat up. Noyon taking a bit of the outside line to run out of the corkscrew. Bill Lawrence going with the inside as they go back towards the rainy curb. Making their way through the sections of the racetrack all the way to turn 11. The lap times are very quick here, David, though, for these Mazdas. Qualifying times in the minute 17s to minute 19s inside the top 20. The race pace, a minute 21 seconds for the race leaders at the moment.
Yeah, exactly, and in not too many laps, that means that the traffic is going to come into play because the laps come up so quickly that the leaders will start catching some of the slower cars quite soon, especially because we're seeing only those 1 minute 17 lap times. We've got a pretty broad field spread.
Everyone
welcome. Donald Poole, poor start, and now he's gone and spun it around.
Yeah, Donald Poole lost control coming out of turn 4, and it might have taken the curves a little bit too much. You can see him on the corner exit, bit wider, then tries to keep out of the sand instead, sends it hard into the tires.
Yeah, pushed wide a little bit through the corner on the grass, kept the throttle pinned, and that was not a good move. So unfortunately, a little bit of damage on that car, and he's not the only driver to have bent some front wings. A little replay of the race start here. 3 wide, Donald Poole on the outside there. I think it's Karkner in the middle, and they just come together. Russ Addy, I believe, is the one that drives the orange car.
Yes, indeed, that is Addy, and you can see 3-4 more drivers colliding in the back of the field. A few others also piling in around the 20s and 30s as they continue to stack up through the Andretti hairpin. But since then, the man in control of the field has been Rostjen. He was the quickest car to start the first lap. Already in the minute 17s once more. A 10th behind the fastest lap, though, in Noyon as he tries to pull away. He's got a 2-second advantage, though, as they're in the middle sector, entering the second sector, rather, of this racetrack.
Yeah, the slipstream and the drafting not as powerful around a circuit like this as it is at, say, Phillip Island, where we were last with these cars, or Road America, where we've been previously. Those circuits have a lot longer straights. I think Rostjen, if he can put a clean lap in and he's 2 seconds clear, he can definitely scamper away with that. We look at this battle here, though, Muller and Bruce Poole, and we ride along with Poole and see how difficult it can be to follow through some of the fast corners sometimes. Up the hill, though, he gets a good run.
You can see right now trying to gain some momentum to battle for 6th position. Down the corkscrew, a bit of a bobble that time, though. Out of turn 8A as they go through the rainy curve for that quick right-hander coming into turn number 10. That lost him a chance to maybe try and go for the dive quite yet, but the slipstream seems to be pretty strong as these drivers actually cutting through the sand still, going wide on some of the quarter exits. There is an incident limit for each of the races. 17 incident points are the maximum you can have already in this race. Some of them are already near double digits.
Yeah, with 22 laps, that means you can't afford to do going off track every single lap. Here's a position changed. We've got Jack Turner, Bruce Granholm. I think Bruce Granholm tries to grab that one, but with such a bumper grid that we've got of 37 cars up and down the field, there's racing going on for everyone. They're side by side the whole way down the straight and towards turn 1.
And you can see how difficult it is for some of the drivers to hold on the outside line of the Andretti hairpin. However, if you're able to stick, you got the preferred line for turn 3. Jack Turner bounces around a bit, lets the drivers on go in that battle as he decides to elect to go a bit further back. There was a car in the midst of that who was one of the drivers who were involved in the first lap incident, Steve Karkner, who was let on by Jack Turner on the bit fresher tires. So McIntosh now tries to attack him for the 19th position. And an air car is off into the sand trap. This is the 17th place runner. Down the running order goes this machine.
lost the rear of the car very early in the corner, but he's done well to keep that off the barrier. So Richard Ross will get back on circuit and keep going. The track temperature is relatively warmish there, and that corner, diving downhill, blind apex, downshifts can also be a bit difficult in this car. They're not always necessarily fully assisted in the 6-speed sequential gearbox.
And you can see, though, as that was happening, Marc Lisson went off into the sand and behind that hill crest, smacked the concrete wall and elected to take the tow truck. So that will move him from inside the top 15 on the wide corner exit.
A lot of drivers really struggling out there. Stefan Rostin in the lead, not one of them, but with 37 cars, we've had more than 10 need to come down onto pit road, get some service done. You saw a brief look at some of those weary looking Pro Mazda race cars that have not had the strongest of races, but higher up the order, the racing is looking very, very good. Bruce Poole wants to make a move on Erzmuller. Both of these guys up 3 positions from where they started, but the car behind them, Paul Stump, started out of 17th, now running in 8th. He has great race pace. I feel like Paul Stump maybe didn't qualify where his pace deserves.
Yeah, he has looked really well in race trim, especially qualified in the 119s, but his practice pace, however, was second quickest behind Noyon. So he does have the race trim pace once the tires are up to the full sawn and trying to reel in this battle. Poole has to check up the brakes, nearly hit the back lane of Mueller. But at this point, what do you do if you're those drivers? Because you can tell Poole and Stump want to go, but they haven't been able to make the move for 6th yet.
And they're also closing up on Randy Shoemake, so a great battle over 5th place here. And there's only a couple of solid overtaking opportunities around here. You can't really throw it down the inside of this corner, but if your opponent in Erzmuller goes wide, Paul Stump will be very happy to try and go up the inside towards the corkscrew, and Stump grabs a position from Poole. It looks like it.
Yeah, he went along the rumble strips coming down the Ray Hall straight out of turn number 6. So move him back to P number 8 as they work their way through the second to last corner. But again, what's referenced on Shoemake, he is a +6 on the race today in the 20 machine. And he is just that red and blue machine with the white striping you see crossing the stripe this time with an estimated 16 laps to go. The amount of slipstream we're already seeing, though, from these drivers is helping a lot of them reel in especially towards the end of the straightaway, potential battles for position. It seems like the drivers, once they reach the end of the straight, are able to send it a bit more deeper on the brakes compared to the drivers in front.
It's also looking really strong up the hill towards the corkscrew, but the corkscrew is just normally not as easy of a place to try and pass, not so wide on the entry there as it is for the Andretti hairpin. So you have a look, watching Paul Stump trying to hunt down a couple more cars. I think he's going to close up on Erzmuller and Randy Shoemake.
Indeed, but we had a change for 3rd position. Bill Lawrence went wide out of turn number 6. Coppedge is up into a podium position, +2 in the race after Lawrence did this. This is a bit more dramatic from what we've seen from Mueller, though, when that battle with Poole for Stump, rather, happened. That time went all 4 tires off into the dirt.
Yeah, no matter what kind of car you're driving, that is a very, very difficult corner, even in a slower, maybe global MX-5 Cup car. You can't see the apex. It's difficult to get the car turned. It's a corner where you really need to absolutely maximize all the speed you carry through the middle to go up the hill, so you're always fully committed, and then you can't quite see the apex. The track wants to get away from you on the exit. You can lose time as easily as you can get a good run out of there.
Yeah, indeed, right now, and that's one of the best drivers for his respective team at the moment. His teammates, though, in that Jaguars paint scheme, in those blue and white machine, they're in a bit of a scrap. Kenneth Dummer actually nearly reeled in Stump, had to check up the brakes in the Andretti hairpin, got loose, and was immediately reeled in by Mark Robertson, who was in that silver paint scheme. Now it's a battle for 9th position as a result, where you can tell Robertson much more comfortable out of the corners in terms of the grip. Tries to go to the high side of the corkscrew as he'll be let on go by Dummer in the 07 machine.
Yeah, a little bit of teamwork there. Robertson clearly had the better run, and he's been let on through, released potentially to try and get after some of those higher up positions in that battle between Poole and Stump. That is the next battle up the road from them. The lead of the race, the times are tumbling. Jean-Michel Noyon's just set his best lap of the race, and Stefan Roestgen got within about 100th of his fastest lap of the race as well. So these guys upping the pace, but it stays at about static at 2 seconds there.
Yeah, it stayed static the interval. And now it looks like Roestgen is starting to actually grow that interval with the 2 red last laps. Should note there is a team championship to reference what we've seen for that battle for 9th position. For teams such as Morgan's organization with Jaguars and Cobras, we've seen those 2 drivers battle. There's teams such as John Morgan working with Gerald Foresson in past seasons with Auto Red, for example. So it's not just about a drivers' championship. Some of these organizations wanting to work together to come away with the team title, like Morgan Jaguars were tied in the lead for after season number 12 with Old Speed.
Don't know if we've got as many of them in this season. I was always a fan of Team Italian Turtles. Gianni Rispaldo was one of the drivers for that. I think he's moved on from this series, at least for the moment. I don't see him in today's race, unfortunately. But yeah, a couple of little team groups out there working together and attempting that team championship. Plenty of battles still, getting close to that halfway point of the race. I think the drivers are getting a little bit more confident. We've seen less incidents than we saw in the first couple of laps. The drivers really learning where the limits are, and some of those drivers, like for example maybe Stephen Karpner, who had some pace but didn't start the race well. I think those are the kind of drivers who are out there turning some laps still to learn as much as they can for race 2 coming up after this.
Yeah, these drivers have a chance to improve on the points totals from this race and the next one. But should note that Shoemaker in this grouping, he's in the 119s. The drivers behind him, Poole and Stump, are amongst the 117s in the same ballpark as the race leaders. So everyone's turned into a choo-choo train trying to find a way around this 20 machine coming to 12 laps to go here in this event for race number 1 of the season opener of the 60-plus racing adventures. You talked about the passing zones at this point in this racetrack. It looks like everybody has a chance to maybe get a run here. They just haven't made the move quite yet, just electing to stay in the slipstream.
As we look from the most interesting perspective, Bruce Poole, oh my goodness, I thought he was going to make some contact there. Randy Shoemake goes a little bit wide. I think 2 cars are going to sneak on through there. Urs Muller certainly did it. Bruce Poole is trying to get down the inside, and then Paul Stump waiting patiently for his turn. Felt that Shoemake might have been the cork in the bottle. Now I think that bottle is uncorked.
And Shoemake just got the cork back inside because they now fight behind him for 6th position. Poole and Stump side by side coming out of turn 5 as they make their way up the hillside underneath the road bridge. Stump trying to hold the power does as he goes down the Rahal straight. So Stump just outside the top 5 now, looking to reel his way back to Randy Shoemake. But I think Randy Shoemake knew that someone wanted to send it, took that corner a bit wider in the Andretti hairpin, and it opened up the door. It just so happens only one driver could fit into it before it slammed back closed.
Yeah, Urs Muller's taken the opportunity to really get away from these guys. He was right with Stump and Poole. He's now 2 seconds down the road. So these guys fought each other as they tried to fight Shoemake. Urs Muller was doing everything he could to get away in 5th place. This battle will continue. I think this is like the 4th time we've seen Stump and Poole trade positions this race.
And it seems like Poole's actually driving the corners a bit strong, do you think? Because it seems like every time he gets close to making a battle for position, he ends up overrunning the corner entry on the brakes, or doing what he just did in the backdrop of that neon bluish machine. He ended up running wide out of turn 3.
We've seen a couple of drivers do that, get into the corners and pick up a bit of understeer, maybe when they're following a driver a little bit closer than they were used to, or maybe they're unsighted at their turn-in points. Track temperature is definitely above 100 Fahrenheit. It's 43 degrees Celsius right now. That's pretty warm, and I wouldn't be surprised if you get into this part of the race and the tyres are maybe operating just a little bit hotter than optimal.
Meanwhile, there was some trouble for Mark Robertson inside the top positions. Crashed hard, had a bit of a bobble, it looked like, along the curbing out of turn 6. This is the biggest victim yet. Started with that inside curb, David, and sent him flying.
And a different incident to what we've seen almost everyone else do, who's just pushed wide. He's on the track with the rear loose, overcorrected, snapped back into the tyre barriers, picked up a bunch of damage, and that car's gone on the tow hook.
A car around as well. Remember Muller? He just spun around in the 5th position. This is in the Andretti hairpin. Did it on his own as he lost the back end of the race car going down the hill with a hairpin.
So all of a sudden, a couple of the drivers really struggling with the rear grip as well. So Muller lucky to not get too much damage out of that, but he'd done a fantastic job getting past Shoemake and those other drivers. Now he's going to have to do it again if he can even catch them. That's unfortunate for him, but at least his race is not over.
Under 10 laps to go in race number 1 of the season opener for the 60-plus race, the Adventures. But to get back to the track temperatures as we keep up the battle for 5th, where this also heats up. The track has heated up 6 degrees Fahrenheit, David, since the drop of the green flag, from a decently hot 105 degrees Fahrenheit to 111. So it is getting blistering hot here in the California desert sun in these fights for position as we keep up with 5th. So at this point, how do you try to adjust to the constant track changing conditions? Because it seems the back tires are starting to take an absolute beating in the late portion of this race.
Yeah, indeed. Weather partly cloudy today, and so we're seeing the sun's been out consistently for a little while. Sometimes there'll be a tiny bit of respite, a little bit of cloud will come across, but for the most part, it's sun out today, and that's been an extended little run of sunshine that has pushed that track temperature up, taken some of the grip away, and some of the drivers, as we've seen, haven't fully adjusted to that. Paul Stump now taking a look at Randy Shoemake, and you can see last lap more than a second out of him, but he's been here before trying to get past Randy Shoemake and not been able to do it. That's when he fought with Bruce Poole behind, lost a bunch of time, and now he's back up here, but struggling to get away past. Randy Shoemake might not have the pace, but he's not making mistakes.
Yeah, he has handled the pressure really well, and we've seen him in various different series in the iRacing series of races be able to hold this consistency in that Texas-sponsored machine. But this time, the slipstream Stump sends it down the inside of the Andretti hairpin. Will he get the breaking point? Gets the bottom. Shoemake gives him the position. Poole wants it as well. Can't get to the inside, though. So move Stump up to his highest position of the race, inside the top 5, plus 12 for the drop of the green flag.
Yep, continuing to charge up the order. So, as you say, Stump up 12 positions now. Bruce Poole also looking to get on by Randy Shoemake, but couldn't do it when Stump did. Now he's trying to set up maybe a better exit up the hill. Will he wait till about 1 lap later and do what Stump did a lap in a row? They've got a little bit of traffic in front of them that could play into it, and the troubles continue for Urs Muller.
Yes, you can see again, turn 6, bites another victim, this time going a bit wider on the outside. Does a 360, loses some track position, falls to 11th in the race. But up in front of that, multiple drivers have been reeled in, including Bruce Poole, still reeling in Shoemake. They got a bit of help, though. There was lap traffic, and Ronald McManus, they had to get on by. That bundled everyone once again. Here comes Shoemake, taking the defensive line. Poole on the slipstream, looking to get to 6th position on the inside line. Will Shoemake give it to him? Yes, he will. So Bruce Poole moves up to 6th position now. Shoemake falls back as they pass right on by a lap car.
Yeah, it was Gene Moore there who very, very graciously let this battle through undisturbed, which is fantastic to see. Paul Stump's going to try and get away. Bruce Poole did a great job on that move, cleanly executed. That's a typical Laguna Seca pass, isn't it? Just get a good drive out of the final corner, come up over the hill, go to the inside for the hairpin, and try and get the move done there. That's just how it should be done, and he's done it cleanly. Is Kenneth Dummer, he's just grabbed one spot off David Riley.
Yes, indeed. You've seen that flash a little bit there as the Jaguars machine keeps on coming up to the field. Right now, it's about 4 seconds, though, to the next position. With just 6 laps to go, though, what do you do if you're one of these drivers who wants to get a good run in race number 1 and you need to close up that gigantic gap? Or say you're in fights for 15th, where you still are looking at least have a banker points total before the second race. As you see on board, this is a run for the 16th spot. Going right on by, Russ Addy trying to complete the recovery drive, sends it into the inside of the corkscrew dirt, cuts the corner, loses 1 spot, make it 2 as he falls back and then some in this bundle of cars.
Yeah, a little bit too ambitious there from Russ Addy, unfortunately. He's one of the drivers we see run really well in this series. He started inside the top 10, got involved in that issue with Karkner and such on the first lap. So, yeah, he's trying to move his way back up through the field. It hasn't stuck on that particular occasion. He was well off the racing surface there. He's a driver who's going to be looking for a good result in race 2. If you're any driver in the top 10 in this race, what you got to do is just not throw it away. When you've got 2 qualifying laps, you always approach the first one as your banker and then go all out on the second one. The same should apply when you've got 2 races here. Get a good points haul locked away in race 1. Make sure you see the checkered flag, and then in race 2, you've just got to try and improve further on that.
Absolutely agree with you on that one. By the way, there was the pass for 17th you just seen from Addy making the move on Bob Kern. Kern driving the United Rentals sponsored machine with some front wing damage on the right side. That will slow him down up in front. Addy still picking up speed. Tries to fight in the inside of Jay Felton. Felton gives him the position, this time in the corkscrew. And we've seen in different types of race cars, especially here, David, if you go side by side down the hill in the corkscrew with that 18% drop and that 59 feet total dip, it is disaster.
Yeah, either it ends in tears or the both of you lose a lot of time, which in racing terms is tears as well. So yeah, if you're going to make a move there, it's got to be decisive, and you might need a little cooperation from your partner while doing it.
By the way, that was again for 16th position for Addy with under 5 laps to go for this battle for position. These are some of the last cars in the lead lap as well, because behind them, Roachgen is already about to lap his way up to 21st position. So far, the Coolidge machine has been dominant. He has now pulled the gap to almost 3 seconds. He's the fastest car on the racetrack by 0.3 of a second, as Paul Stump is side by side for 5th position. He's looking to fight with Bruce Poole. Will Poole give up the spot? No, he will not. Tries to cut on the inside. Has the preferred line on the exit of turn number 3. Tries to squeeze Stump off the line. Can't do so. They go side by side at a turn 4. Poole has to let off the gas as more momentum that time for Stump. Here comes Shoemake. As these drivers continue to fight for points paying position, Shoemake backs off the gas. Poole drops back outside the top 5. But here's the significance again of this battle for position. Out of the top 5, 21st for 5th, 19 for 6th, and then 7th gets 18 points. And with the championship, in the long run, you want to get the most points possible for a race weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. So Stump and Poole trading positions now, approaching maybe 10 times in this race. 2 drivers, very similar pace battling each other there as well, and their battle amongst themselves nearly brought Shoemake back into the picture again. So they are need to be careful how hard they fight each other, looking for that 5th position.
And every time they fight too, David, they lose a couple seconds of track time. On their own, they've been running in the 118s and the 117s, the high 117s, we should know. They go side by side. Their times immediately dip to the 120s, in fact. In our words, you need to think big picture. Even though there's 3 laps to go, you need to time it up right if you want to make one more dive for a pass.
Exactly. Well, it looks very cool to see them battling side by side several corners in a row. What it does is really cost both drivers a lot of time. So Stump's going to try and hold on to that 5th place. He's not under pressure from Poole immediately right now. And Shoemake trying to keep up, has a little error, tires into the dirt there, but kept it pointing the right way. So it's not the worst mistake we've seen in that corner this race, and it definitely will stand up pretty well compared to some of the others, but you can tell a lot of these guys continuing to push in the dying laps of this race.
That time, Poole actually taking a bit of a jump, no damage on the front wing as they take the 2 to go signal. And again, these drivers trying to fight for the 5th position on the racetrack. Should note, RaceSpotTV is already in sector number 2 with that 2.5, make a 2.6 second lead, as he continues to try and secure what would be a strong victory to start season number 13 of this campaign. Your thoughts on how he's driven this race today?
Yeah,
hold on, cars in the grass. And Moore nearly came up across, but apologies there. That was right in front of the race leader that nearly came up in front, but you were saying?
Been a pretty steady gap between 1st and 2nd all race, and I'm sure Noyon wishes he could find just a couple more tenths of a second per lap. Stefan Roestgen's just done exactly what he needs to do. Someone has blown the apex seals on their rotary engine on the pit straight though, and that's going to be a distraction for Stefan Roestgen. Not only is it going to be a distraction, but now he's going to have a visor full of dirt and oil. He'll have some tear-offs available for that, but Bob Kern trying to limp that thing home on the final lap. It does not look or sound good.
Yes, white flag is out. Bob Kern nearly coming up in front of some lap traffic as he fights for some of these positions. He can try and make it to the finish line, because if you say get a meatball flag, you end up having up to 3 laps. The problems though for Coppedge though in 4th position, seen him go off the racing surface before he can finish this race. So he stayed in 4th position, however, as RaceSpotTV making his way to the corkscrew, looking to secure the first win of the season in race number 1 of round 1 of the 60-plus racing adventures, where there may be one more race to go for today. He'll start off on the perfect footing, 35 points, a max day. The question is, what can he do for race number 2? Because the first one will end with the checker flag. Stefan RaceSpotTV wins race number 1 of round number 1 of the 60-plus racing adventures. That lap
fantastic job by Noyon though in the last 2 laps or so there to try and claw a second back out of him. The end result is going to be a lot closer than we thought it was going to be. Battle's still to continue on the last lap though.
I was about to say that lap traffic lost him about 1 second or 1.5 seconds, but the battle's still on, as you mentioned, for 16th. This is at the tail end of the lead lap. Russ Addy trying to hold on. Remember, he started inside the top 10 before being involved in the first lap incident. Jack Turner is trying to make the move. Turner's had some ups and downs in this race today, as he looks to go up 1 more spot, a bit slower that time through turn 6 to go down the Rahal straight here, David.
Yeah, and these guys just stayed on the lead lap, so they're going to be some of the last cars to come across the line. Russ Addy, this time through the corkscrew, takes a near perfect line, kept it on the racetrack, unlike what we saw the previous time. So Jack Turner drops a little bit further back, and Addy looks a little bit more certain of 16th place. Cars battling in front of Addy, but I don't think he's going to be able to get to Jay Felton in 15th place. There's another huge mover in this race, currently up 18 positions from where he started. He might have been one of those drivers without a qualifying time, but he's driven a reasonable race.
Last of the cars across the stripe for race number 1 of round number 1 of the 60 Plus Racing Adventures. It was a fun one for sure for this opening race of the opening round of season 13. Let's look at your unofficial race results, with Stefan Rosgen coming away with the checker flag. Noyon finishing in second, Lawrence and Koppich rounding out the top 4. Paul Stump finished in 5th. Bruce Poole finished 6th, with Shoemake, Baldwin, Dummer, and Riley rounding out your top 10 finishing positions today, David.
From 11th there, we've got Erzmuller, Richard Coulomb in 12th, Louis Cannell in 13th, Richard Valley in 14th, Jay Felton in 15th. The battle we saw on the last lap there, Russ Addy and Jack Turner 16th and 17th, the last cars on the lead lap. And then one lap down, Bruce Granham, France Brink, and Charles Gilly in 20th.
It's Bob Curran in 21st position, made it to the checker with a blown engine, Mark Robertson 22nd, Ralph Kemmerer in 23rd, Molesby, McManus, Gallo, and Martin in those 24 through 27 positions. Gene Moore finished 5 laps down in 28th, Michael Hans-Connect in 29th, and Fred McIntosh in 30th. Rounding out the drivers, Richard Ross, an up and down day, 31st, along with Gerald Florison, Douglas Beasley, Mark Lisson, Stephen Karkner, Donald Poole, and John Morgan rounding up the 37 drivers competing in race number 1. The drivers now getting all set to go for the second race of the opening round, but one man already has a max points day. It's Stefan Rosgen, last year's season champion with season 12, and a 4-time champion in a row. Let's see if we can get the chance to speak with him. He is celebrating in victory lane. And Mr. Rosgen, a dominating start to season number 13. How are you feeling after that race?
Yeah, thank you. It was not easy, this race. The guy behind me was very fast and could not afford to cut back.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the difficulties. How difficult is this racetrack to try and keep up a consistent pace? Because the interval at one point was about even every single lap. In fact, a bit of a increase from Noyon from behind.
Yeah. At the beginning, I could build up a little bit. But when it came to overtaking, I was a little bit cautious, and he could close in. It was demanding.
It looked demanding indeed. But of course, still race number 2 for the first round coming up here. Your thoughts on what we should expect for the second race of the day?
Yeah, it all depends on qualifying pace, and then if there are some trouble after the start, and if not, then I think we could see the same again or something like that. I don't know. You never know.
Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you get ready for race number 2?
Yes, I want to thank the organizers of that. Fantastic guys, do a great job, and RaceSpot is making great shows.
Thank you very much for the time. Congratulations on the race 1 victory. That is Stefan Rosgen coming away with the first race victory of season 13. Standing by with David is Bill Lawrence, your 3rd place finisher. David?
Bill, 3rd place, reasonable points in race 1, but could you match that pace from Rosgen and Noyon?
I'd like to think that I could, but I think that's just in my dreams, to be fair, David. Both of those guys are extremely fast, so to finish 3rd, I'm very happy with that.
Big turnout for round 1, and Laguna Seca, a bit of a shorter track than some of the other ones that we visit. How was traffic out there? Because when you divvy up how much circuit there is between 37 cars, not everyone gets a lot of space.
Yeah, traffic behaved pretty good today, I think. I'm not sure what was going on in the races in the field, but I know Leroy and I were having a competition, and so the traffic was going to affect us in our race. So it was just a flip of the coin. But I think by and large, most guys were really good.
And we also had a little bit of a swing in the weather during the race. The track temperature moving up and down a little bit. Do you notice that behind the wheel of the car, or does it need a little bit more change for you to notice the difference in grip?
It's interesting you mentioned that, David. No, there's a definite change, and I noticed it in practice, and that's what practices are good for. Once it hits about 107 and up, everything gets slicker, and you need to adjust your brake marks.
Interesting to hear your insight on that one, because we were kind of seeing that from off-board, that when the track temperature moved up, there was a couple of corners where it looked like people were losing the rear more than they were losing the front early in the race. Is that the feeling that the balance shifts?
Yeah, it's like the track becomes greasy. That's the best way I can describe it. There's a lot more slip. So you have to be very careful, especially on that one corner leading up to the corkscrew. That's a really difficult corner. I went off there one time. I really had the jitters going into that corner.
Well, we're going to congratulate you on podium in race 1, and we'll see you again in race 2.
Thank you, David. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Bill. Well, that's everyone who came to have a chat with us, I think, Justin.
Yes, indeed. Let's take a break as we get ready to go for race number 2 of the opening round of Season 13 of the 60 Plus Racing Adventures. You're watching RaceSpotTV from WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna, Seca.
Jason Hamilton. I'm Director of Racing Operations and Event Management for NASCAR. I'm also the Series Director for the eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series on iRacing and the eNASCAR Ignite Series on iRacing. We're here at Myrtle Beach Speedway for a test session for Zach and Max, the two champions from the eNASCAR Peak Series and the eNASCAR Ignite Series. They're testing late models in partnership with Rev Racing. Opportunity for them to come out and showcase the skills that they built on iRacing in a full-size stock car for the first time.
Got in the car, got the wheel adjusted. Zach's in the car now. Get that set up for him, and be ready to roll here in a little bit.
The tips we got were basically just to try and keep it on the bottom as best as possible, and that's going to be the easiest way to keep the car in one piece and just not make any mistakes.
You're off the throttle for a long time. You're off the throttle longer than you actually think you need to be, but the corners are so long. If you try to pick the throttle up too fast, it's just going to either jerk the car loose or make it tight and it jerks. Any other questions?
Nope.
We'll try it, and if you have any trouble, need to talk about something, it's fine to stop. Always come off the racetrack like we did, a while ago.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that was crazy. I wanted to open it up a little bit more, but it was all about just keeping the car in one piece, being safe.
I have no complaints on that. So just now that you're out, you can relax and think about what you did, and then we'll apply to the next round. Okay. Yeah, you did very well. Yeah.
Thank you.
You make me nervous, but you didn't. You didn't make me nervous this time. Yeah. So that was good.
You good with the height now? All right.
What about your gears? You know where they're at? First, second, third, fourth? Okay.
What we're telling you now is what we've told him all along.
And you're doing fine.
Yeah.
You're doing perfect. We're just trying to help those little places to gain more. My name is Mark Green. I work for Rev Racing. I am the driver development coach for the team. They both got up to speed fairly good. The biggest thing, especially here at Myrtle Beach Speedway, it's the line that you run. This place it's old pavement, it's wore out, it doesn't have a lot of grip. So there's a different way of racing this racetrack line-wise and driving-wise. So we had to work on those aspects of it with them. But they took to it very well, and they learned most of it. They still don't have it obviously down pat. After 6 hours, nobody would. Both young men did very, very well. We were very happy with our test today. No mishaps, and I think everybody had fun, and we had a good day.
So both Max and Zach did a great job. It was very impressive to see how quickly they got up to speed today. They took the coaching very well. We implemented a similar format to what we do with the Driver Diversity Combine, where we bring a large group of drivers in and evaluate them. We gave them a couple of sessions in the morning to get up to speed. Both of them took those sessions, learned from the coaching that we had today with Rev Racing's Mark Green, and both of them built. And as we went on throughout the day, every time they went out, they got faster and faster, and we're actually turning some pretty competitive laps by the end of the day. I think it just reaffirms our belief that iRacing in the future can continue to be a grassroots form of racing, where we're reaching a new audience, reaching a broader audience of talented drivers that may not have access to a traditional racetrack to begin their racing careers, but they can start them on iRacing, and then from there propel themselves to the next levels and higher levels of racing. And just like drivers similar to William Byron, we'll continue to see drivers like that get their start on iRacing, make their way up the NASCAR ranks, and hopefully one day be racing in the Cup Series.
That hurts.
I love Smokey. Nasty, he just spun in the car again. That's so dumb. Wow, the guy just kept pushing me into the guy in front of me. That was awesome.
Look at the pros, all the Excite cars, all with each other. They've already had one of their teammates going off, as that's Liam Stokestone off track going into Bourbon. He's getting lost into the woods. To Grandma's house he goes.
Okay, that was fast. Yeah,
just understeer. Try to get back, very uncontrollable, and
fastest lap for Owen, 21.62.
Wide for the lead after 4 hours of racing. It's the approach to the line now. Who is it going to be? Oh, they've all gone into one another, and there's only one left. It's Tanner Whitson. He's going to win here at Talladega in the Dinners for Racers. Talladega 4 hours in MX5. Tanner Whitson takes it. The only one left in the end. He just about avoided the crash. And congratulations to him. Schmeiding in second place.
Oh my good. No, 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 no!
Welcome back, everyone, to RaceSpotTV's coverage of the 60-plus racing adventures as we get all set to go for race number 2 of round number 1 of the 13th season of this great series. I'm Justin Prince, alongside of the booth is David Haynes. Hugo Ruiz in the director's seat for today's action as everyone gets all set to go for qualifying. And it was an interesting first race of the season, David. What do you expect to see in race number 2 for this action? Apologies there, as David has apparently stepped away, but these drivers are stepping onto a racetrack that's a little bit cooler compared to when we started race number 1. 101 degrees Fahrenheit is the track temp. Decent amount in centigrade as well on this 11-turn circuit. The biggest challenges for drivers throughout the first race was the run out of turn number 6. That is that short dog leg after that straightaway in towards the Rahal Straight, where many drivers struggled to keep it on the racetrack and or hit the rumble strips and snapped around, including one hard into the nose cone, into the concrete and tire barriers. But as these drivers make their way for qualifying, this is a chance for them to try and rebound here. David's now back into the broadcast chair here. Your expectations for race number 2 after an interesting first one?
Well, obviously the track temperature is looking a little bit cooler, and from what we heard, that'll give a lot of the drivers a bit more confidence, as if turning 22 laps wheel to wheel won't have taught them something and given them more confidence as well. Obviously this qualifying format, only 2 laps, drivers need to really make sure that they get up to speed quickly in this qualifying session. There's no rush in terms of how much time they've got. 10 minutes is plenty to get your 2 flying laps in. But once your laps are done, that's that. You won't be improving. So a lot of the drivers starting on their first flying lap now. Looking at the attendance, as it were, we had 37 drivers for race 1. I'm seeing 35 for this second race. So almost everyone sticking around to try and improve on their race 1. And in the case of Stefan Rostjan, to try and go back-to-back races 1 and 2 and sweep this round of the new season.
And it's not just that, there's drivers who weren't a part of the first race who are going to have just one shot at good points. Roberto De Filipis amongst those drivers in the 52 machine. He ran in the 120s in practice. Other drivers such as Michael Hilliard making their first runs on the racetrack the entire session in this qualifying. So a few drivers, they've got just one chance to get themselves a good points haul, and there's many others who are looking to improve upon an up and down first race of the season.
First time on the board is Russ Addy, so he goes to the top. A lot of the drivers coming across, and you can see those times update now. It changes. Bill Lawrence grabs it away. Bruce Poole and Stephen Karkner all went faster as well. Paul Stump going into second before he gets replaced by Leroy Coppedge. All these drivers got another flying lap to continue to improve as well. It's always exciting seeing all of the times trickle in at once, and that live leaderboard can update very, very quickly indeed.
For those tuning in for the first time for 60-plus Racing Adventures, this is a series consisting of drivers who are above the age of 60 and over. It's a series that is running on the oval and road sides that has been running for many years in the iRacing service. And this road championship in the Pros Mazdas is considered one of the honorific titles for drivers above that age bracket here on the service. It's been an absolutely friendly competition, a respectful environment in its entire history. David, you've been watching along as these races have gone on through the past few seasons. How would you describe 60-plus Racing Adventures to someone watching for the first time?
I think it's a series that aims to put the emphasis on friendly competition and experience. I've not really come across an iRacing league where the drivers are fairer to each other, more friendly and more passionate about just getting some racing in. And it really goes to show that sim racing is not just good for the young folks and the folk who can't afford as much racing as they would like. It's for everyone. A lot of these guys maybe would struggle in a race car, maybe don't have the time or the fitness anymore, but they can get on iRacing battle each other. And for sure, a lot of these guys would have been passionate motorsport fans for, going on more than 50 years. So the passion and enthusiasm that these guys have definitely surpasses mine or yours in some cases, for sure.
Looking at some of the drivers, such as Bob Kern going around the racetrack at the moment, the fastest time is a 1:16.9 by Rosgen at the moment. Kopech in second, Noyon in third, Lawrence and Addy round out the top 5 on the pylon on the left side of your screen here. The average pace has actually picked up a little bit with the core track temp for guys such as Kern here to the low 117s for the top of the pylon, mid-pack in the 118s. As we continue to follow along with the 6th machine, he's one of the drivers looking to improve upon a run where he finished with a blown engine in race number 1. And qualifying for race number 2 comes across the stripe with a 1:18.8. That puts him in 15th position.
Yeah, Bob Kern now done both of his laps. Interestingly, there was a couple of drivers out there who only managed to use one of their laps, might have pushed too hard and gotten off track somewhere. There's a couple places around the circuit it's easy to do, specifically the AstroTurf and the exit of the final corner. But then what we saw is there's plenty of corners around where it's possible to get in the dirt as well, and any of those things would make your lap time not valid. So a few drivers having those problems during qualifying. Stefan Rosgen not really one of them though.
Yeah, to say the very least. In fact, some of his fellow competitors already congratulating him on the super lap across the racetrack. Taking a look now at John Morgan in the 177. See what type of time he can put up in this machine. He was one of the drivers that started at the back, but that's the beauty of this series. You can score points in the top 24, yes, but your best result is the one you come away with for the points in the round. So if you're Morgan, this is a chance for a bounce back as long as he can keep the car clean.
Yeah, and he'll have plenty of time left in this session still. This looks like his first flying lap, and we're talking about lap times just over 1 minute. He'll definitely get to the line with time still to do a second lap after that. So he's a driver using some of the time later in the session, and you know what, that'd be a clever thing to do if a bit of cloud came out later in the session and your opposition qualified on a warmer track than you. Unfortunately, I think the track temperature is going to be going away from John Morgan, warming up a little bit as the session continues. It looked like an outlap there, and he's just starting his first flying lap potentially. I don't see a time for him on the board just yet. So Morgan, this one is going to have to be good.
Yeah, falling on board, that was the outlap indeed. And some drivers have different ways to take those outlaps. They like to take it, some of them with anger, some of them like to keep the tires cool until the final sector and then start pushing on the tires. This time he pushed his way through the Ray Hall straight heading towards the corkscrew. A quick turn 7 going to the right, then that hard decline to turn 8 and 8A. The run all the way from the corkscrew down to turn number 10 is around 10 stories, the drop in terms of height in that section of the racetrack, as you see Morgan run his way towards the final corner down the pit straight. A lot of drivers kept the car clean in this section. This is a trouble spot. If you handle it the wrong way, not a lot of speed off the corner. Let's see the lap time though. Up at the stripe, it's a 1:18.6. And that's a decent one. Puts him to 15th and moves right in front of Bob Kern. And he's happy with that time, it looks like.
Yeah, or he thinks he's not going to be able to improve. So, and a couple more cars still left out in the circuit. Rapidly running out of drivers who'd be able to displace Stefan Rosgen from the top of the timing pylon. Looking at Bob Kern out here on circuit. He's completed his 2 qualifying laps. He's just using the remainder of the time as a bit of a test session, and I tell you what, that's not a particularly bad idea. He's not going to improve from 16th place where he is right now. What he is doing is instead of taking just the 2 laps, using the full session for a bit more warm-up. The time ticks down in the top left there, and we are rapidly approaching race 2.
Yes, indeed. The drivers all set to take the grid for the full pace lap, and Rosjan setting an unworldly time, as some drivers described in a 1:16.9, the fastest of the day. Noyan starts in second, Kopich in third, with Bill Lawrence rounding out the starting top 4 positions. Russ Addy starts in 5th with Paul Stump in the 6th spot. Kenneth Baldwin starts in 7th. Stephen Kartner trying to have a good run after that first lap crash in race 1. He'll start in front of Bruce Poole and Joel Martin rounding out the top 10 starting positions, David.
11th, a man we saw lots of time of in race 1, Randy Shoemake. And then Kenneth Dummer right behind him. Louis Cannell in 13th, Mark Robertson in 14th, John Morgan in 15th, Bob Kern in 16th place, as we mentioned, Richard Varley in 17th, David Riley 18th there, and Bruce Granheim 19th, Greg Garris in 20th place.
Ralph Kemmerer in 21st, and a surprising qualifying run for Urs Moore in 22nd. He was a runner inside the top 5 much of race 1. Hans Connect in 23rd. Wally Mullsby starts 24th in front of Jack Turner, Gerald Ferguson, Ronald McManus, Michael Hilliard, Fred McIntosh, and Gene Moore round out the qualifiers who put in times. Rest of the drivers starting at the back on provisionals: Jay Belton, Roberto De Filippis, Richard Colombi, as well as Douglas Beasley, Scott Gallo, and Mark Lizon. Those are the 36 drivers looking to take the starting grid. There are a few drivers, it appears, who will start from the pit lane for race number 2. But this is a good chance for a lot of the drivers who finished towards the back to have a run towards the front. One driver starting the pits is McManus. Everybody else lined up behind this pace car, David. Your expectations and who to watch for in race number 2.
Well, we got to talk about that battle between Rosjan and Noyan. They're in the same qualifying order that they were for race 1, in the same order as they finished race 1, and after 22 laps, it was basically only a second and a half to separate them. So you've got to imagine Rosjan's looking to go back to back, and Jean-Michel Noyan got so close, kept the pressure on all race in race 1. It's really just looking to find half a tenth of a second per lap to give Rosjan a battle and a fight for the win in this race. He's so tantalizingly close to having the speed to grab a race win. He just needs to find something more from race 1 into race 2, and we could have a real fight between these two titans.
And the interesting thing, David, the track conditions we've seen in race number 1, they just hit the identical temps at the start of that. As we get set for race number 2, 105 degrees Fahrenheit, the track temp making 106 as they work their way through sector number 3. Again, Rosjan in control of the field. They'll be lined up alongside Noyan. It's going to be the question of who's going to take home the checkered flag in race number 2. And these drivers are set to hit the loud pedal. Remember, they started just off the exit at turn 11 for race number 1. Noyan this time looking for a better start compared to race number 1. Rosjan uses the bottom, gets the launch. Green flag is out. We're underway for race number 2 of the 60-plus racing adventure season. Side by side already for second. Kopich getting a good start on the bottom lane. Noyan not the best of runs off the top line. Bill Lawrence tries to send it in as they nearly make contact. Noyan loses 2 positions in the Andretti hairpin to start.
Relatively clean start all through the field, but not quite the one Noyan was after. He got caught napping, he's lost 2 positions. Now Rosjan is trying to get away from the chaos we saw in race 1. It's a lot more subdued in race 2. There is still some moves happening though on the first lap.
McIntosh already off the racetrack. 2 others have joined McManus in the pit lane. Outside of that, everybody else is clean and through to start. Looking right now at Noyan trying to reel in the driver in front of Bill Lawrence. Huge braking differential that time of the corkscrew. A bit of bumping down on the curbing though, loses some momentum to Russ Addy as he tries to wheel his orange and yellow Zoom home machine up towards the front.
Addy involved in a first lap incident in race 1, a lot cleaner for him on race 2, and he's got the elbows out, he's putting the pressure on, and that looks like a reasonable run off the final corner too. Noyon looks like he's lost some of his rhythm. He doesn't look comfortable at all. Coppage has profited from that, Lawrence has profited from that, and now Noyon coming through as well. A couple cars leaving the pit lane there, but they are not going to get in the way of our leaders.
Yeah, those are a lot of the drivers who started from the pit lane and or had to take a tow truck to start. And compare this to the first lap differences. Yeah, drivers up 6 to 7 spots in race number 1 this time. Much more calmer, meaning a lot of drivers starting pretty stagnant in the grid, as you see on that pylon.
Yeah, only moves really within the top 10 there is that spots that Noyon has lost, but a little bit further down, Mark Robertson, him there in 14th, battling with Bob Kern, John Morgan around there, and Robertson we saw in the last race as well, quite familiar with battling with some of his teammates. He hasn't got the run up the hill this time, and it's going to be Kern putting the pressure on Joel Martin in front. Great view that we have of that.
Yeah, you can see right now those cars continuing to scrap for position. Again, Martin is in 12th. Kern took away 13th this lap by to move up +3. As his teammate Robertson has a hard break. Kern bit better though on corner exit, and you can see the differences in braking approach. Kern electing to take it a bit slow on entry but fast off the exit. Robertson trying to gain the time of the exits but not as quick at the moment on the corner exit, and it comes a bit, I think, to that track adjustments we heard from Bill Lawrence discuss.
Yep, certainly those track temperatures still being quite warm, and you can see the sun on the circuit. It's risen still from the start of the race, so drivers who can be confident on a slick surface are going to be doing rather well now. Paul Stump trying to close in on Addy.
Hold on, we got a car off the track as they fight.
From second.
Yes, indeed, Coppage from second position as that battle went side by side. Hit the curbing a little bit too much on the run through turn 6. And as we've seen before, if you hit that inside curbing a bit too hard, your car can absolutely snap. That time, it absolutely demolished his car. It looks like, though, he got some backwing damage. When he got back on the racetrack, he ended up collecting some additional cars after he got back going from the sand trap, including that battle we were watching before, which included Joel Martin.
That's a real shame there for Coppage. Oh, someone else who was wide's gone and collected him there. Yeah, you see that. Wow. So a couple cars heading up the hill, getting into the barrier, and it has indeed demolished the rear of Coppage's car. He was within 1 second of the leader, Stefan Rosten, so it is a bit heartbreaking to see him lose out in that fashion when he's in position to make a challenge and give us a race for the pointy end of the points.
Yeah, he did get a good finish in race number 1, so he has the points to back up on. But now it is Rosten in the lead by almost 3 seconds because of that timing of the incident. Russ Addy still trying to hold on to 4th, though, with Paul Stump, as they had swapped positions before. As you take a look still at that battle for second spot, Noyon and Lawrence together right now in the 117 7s to 3s. Rosten is running in the 117 3 flats.
Yeah, Bill Lawrence, man, we finished in 3rd place and we spoke with after race 1. Now running in 2nd position and trying to hold off Noyon. It would be an improvement for Lawrence if he could hold on to this 2nd place, but that seems like a difficult task. Noyon is right there behind him. Didn't take a look into the hairpin, but I think Lawrence took a bit of a shallow entry. He's feeling the pressure. Well, I mean, everyone is a wise old head in this series, but I think Lawrence, more so than others, has a calm demeanor about him, as well as a passion for racing.
Yeah, he seemed pretty calm in the interview. He seems pretty calm, cool, and collected in the Jaguars machine. So that blue, white, and yellow machine holding on to position. One of his teammates, though, in a bit of a fight. This is in 6th spot right now at the moment. Baldwin is the car in front. Karkner is the car behind. Should say that's a Crown Racing machine, pardon me on that one, in the slightly purplish tint. that is trying to reel him in. And this is about to become a 3-car scrap because Poole is trying to send it hard behind him in that gray and red machine. And they're all lining up behind Coppedge, who has already taken one of his 2 fast repairs available.
Noyon has grabbed Bill Lawrence somewhere around the corkscrew section, so Lawrence, we were hoping, might be able to hold on to this battle, but from second on the grid, having dropped to 4th, Jean-Michel Noyon now back up into 2nd, but the furthest he's ever been away from Stefan Roschen at almost 4 seconds. So Noyon, it looked inevitable. He's had some of the best race pace in race 1 and in qualifying as well. He's back up into 2nd place. Call out a couple of drivers who had a really tough time in race 1 who are doing better here in race 2. That's the likes of Russ Addy, Stephen Karkner. Those guys came together before the first turn last time out, and now they're both looking for a top 10 or so. Not going so well for Louis Canel, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can see that now up on your screen. Addy just went around in live action, but this is what happened to this HSBC machine. Hit the curbing in turn 4 and spun around. Then Addy. This is in the fight that we were just seeing before. With Stump, he lost control after hitting the curbing in turn 6. The common theme? You hit the curbs, you're going around in a circle.
Yeah, rear of the car starting to look very loose for a lot of these guys. So that's unfortunate for Russ Addy, but he keeps the car out of the wall, keeps it facing the correct way. Now, the best battle is 5th, 6th, and 7th place. But Bruce Granheim can run well sometimes. He's down in 17th right now. Maybe not the qualifying he was after, but looking to move up through the order.
Yeah, you're seeing some of that battling, in fact, up on your screen as Granheim was towards the middle of the pack in his air qualifying session. The snap-on machine having to go through some dirt haze as drivers clip the edge of the sand along the side of the racetracks, but he's been looking calm, cool, and collected as well as in this battle for 10th. This is where Russ Addy cycled out, and now he's trying to hold on to the position in front of Mark Robertson. Robertson 15 seconds back of the race leader last time by David.
Yep, indeed. Through that difficult section, it's been catching everyone out. The way the track drops, banks a little bit with a blind entry and a vicious curb in the center of the corner as well, it should be said. So it's making that so difficult. And the exit is absolutely critical up the hill as you try to get every kilometer per hour, every little bit of speed and every little bit of horsepower up that hill towards the corkscrew. Mark Robertson got it right this time. But Russ Addy in front of him, field might get away just a little bit. Seems to have top 5 pace, but that spin has put him further down the order. Speaking of spins, David Riley looks like he's had one in the final corner.
This would be our first victim there. Yes, that's not the best of lines to enter the corner. It just looked like he might have taken it a little bit too hard. What do you think?
Yeah, peculiar. A bit of a narrow entry. He's locked the rears at very low speed and gone for a bit of a half spin that's cost him a bit of time. Kenneth Baldwin in 5th place, trying to get away from this battle. It's Stephen Karkner and Bruce Poole. Karkner in 6th, Poole in 7th, and Karkner runs a little bit wide coming up the hill. Poole's best lap is 3/10 quicker, and he's right there now.
Yeah, that time Poole has to back off. Of course, dangerous to go side by side on the corkscrew. Where will he try and time it up? Remember, in the late portions of race number 1, that's where we've seen the slipstream really come into play towards the Andretti hairpin. Poole is inside that slipstream right now. The question is, can he get the pole? Karkner starts to drip to the defensive line on the left side of the track. With 14 laps to go, what will Poole elect to do? Elects to stay behind for now as he tries to take a higher arc off the Andretti hairpin.
And you sort of alluded to something there. It's a little too early in the race still to make moves that are too risky or too foolish. Poole's there. He's sussing out where Karkner might be weak, or maybe waiting for another little error out of one of these corners from Karkner. But there's no point in taking a low percentage move and losing too much time. We saw in the last race that if you can't get a clean move completed right away and you keep battling for a couple corners in a row, it can cost you 2 or 3 seconds easily. And if you drop these guys back just a couple of seconds, suddenly they're into the grips of Randy Shoemake and Kenneth Duma a little bit further back. The pack is just too tight, and there's just too many quality drivers for those guys to afford to battle right now. Problems for Paul Stump though.
Yes, indeed. Took the corner exit wide and hit hard on the right side of the race car. He was in third position, reeling in Bill Lawrence. He is now off the circuit. The battle for third. But regardless, a huge mistake from Paul Stump.
And not one we've really seen before there, going that wide right out the exit there. And it's a new one for me, but I guess that's how racing is sometimes. You're pushing hard through all of these corners, and he's ended up in the dirt in an odd position, and it is a shame for Paul Stump there that's how his race is going to come undone.
By the way, it's 3-car drafting train you're seeing now up on your screen, where Poole and Carkner reeling back in Kenneth Baldwin, but again, there is that massive elevation change we see at that portion of the racetrack where if you don't know the exact line of the pavement, there's a chance you end up taking the dirt instead of the actual pavement. It takes a lot of practice to know where the limitations of the track is, as Baldwin loses the back end. Loses 2 positions in the process. Shoemake reels him in the process now.
Yeah, the rear stepping out on him there as the track drops away and he tries to put the power down. Not as bad as Paul Stump's incident, but indeed it cost him 2 positions very, very quickly. You can call out the track temperature in your units, but it's risen from about 39 degrees Celsius up to 43.3, and Bill Lawrence was telling us some very, very useful insight at the end of race 1, that it's that kind of small swing in temperature that is just a little bit too much for this compound of tyres, and the grip really gets away from them as the track gets hotter.
Yeah, that moves back Baldwin to 6th position last time by the stripe. Battle was up for 10th position once again, though, because remember, Addy had started to pull away a little bit. He is now slowly trying to hold off a charging car. While he's trying to reel in Robertson, it is John Morgan who is now onto his rear wing at the moment. This is for, again, the 11th spot. The 10th place car just up the road, and Robertson trying to reel in Bob Kern. So a few different battles are shaping up across this racetrack in 2 different sections.
Yeah, plenty of exciting battles up and down as we're about halfway through this race. There's a lot of cars battling each other. No huge packs, but a lot of packs of 2. This is one of them here as it starts to form up. John Morgan trying to hunt down Russ Addy, but look, Morgan pushed just a little bit too hard. That corner can be quite deceiving. It's got a little bit of banking to it, but if you don't turn in at exactly the right time, get to the apex, then you miss out on a little bit of the banking. You'll push out wide like that and not carry the speed that you were hoping you could.
Indeed, and there's a good example of that if you go to Wally Mulsby, who just spun around in turn 5 exit and got back going. He tried to take a lot of speed, ended up going immediately around on a bonsai move into the entrance of turn 5 and went around at a 360 in the middle of the racing surface. So if you do time up the speed for those moves, those low risk, these high risk situations lead to very low results up on the board.
Yeah, indeed. So here's one of our best battles that's happening. Russ Addy's trying to close in on Mark Robertson, who's trying to close in on Bob Kern, and Addy has got a much better run up the hill, but wasn't close enough to put the pressure on Mark Robertson that time. You can tell Addy has the pace in some places. He just needs to get a good exit somewhere that Robertson is as strong. And in the penultimate corner there, you've seen Robertson lose a little bit more time as well. So this feels like an opportunity maybe coming for Russ Addy. But the problem is that he's slipstreaming Robertson. It's same time, Robertson's picking up a slipstream on Bob Kern.
Thing is, Robertson leaves the bottom side for Addy. And will we give him the spot? No, he keeps the power down and keeps it side by side into turn 3. On the preferred line, tries to squeeze him up. The racing line does, so Addy can't get the pass done. So it looked like Addy had a big opportunity just by a wing. Just couldn't get clear of Robertson for the spot. By the way, third position getting interesting here because Noyon slowed down on the racetrack off of turn 6.
Yeah, bit of a spin there for Noyon. Had to get it facing the right way, and it's cost him a bunch of time. Let Bill Lawrence back on through. These guys are now more than 10 seconds behind Stefan Rostjen, who is coasting away in the lead of the race. And then a crazy battle shaping up for 4th.
Yeah, this is Karkner amongst the drivers. Traffic 3 wide with the lap machines. Baldwin has stayed inside the slipstream with Shoemake as well to keep this a 4-car train for the position. And with 9 laps to go, the moves are starting to intensify on the racetrack. These cars 18.7 seconds back of Rostjen as they continue to try and shake things up. Karkner, though, the best out of everyone almost into turn 3. If he could make that stick where the pavement was about 5 feet wider, he would have been able to pull away by 5 car lengths and break the toe.
Yeah, no doubt. Karkner looking for a good result, leading the train for 4th place right now, but what a list of drivers behind him hungry to improve on their results. It'd be an improvement for Shoemake if he finished where he is right now. Bruce Poole looking for a top 5, and Karkner didn't get the race 1 he wanted. All these guys hungry to improve in race 2. Shoemake nearly up the back of Kenneth Baldwin in the braking zone. Don't know how he avoided contact there. This is pretty elbows out racing now from these guys. Past the halfway point of the race, it's going to be 8 laps to go when they cross the line in 1 corner's time.
And Karkner having a heck of a lap, actually. Even with that wide run in turn 3, this time by the 75 machine of Karkner nearly broke the toe and ended up running a 1:18.58. Everybody else behind him ran in the 1:19.6s, David. That was a blistering quick lap, one of the fastest on the circuit that time by.
Yeah, it just goes to show that these guys, when they get the lines right, when they get a good lap together, a quick lap is possible, especially for drivers like Karkner or Addy. It's just difficult in these temperatures for the drivers to be consistent. Everyone is struggling with that. While we were looking at this fantastic battle, Noyon did get back past Bill Lawrence for 2nd place. So didn't see exactly where that one happened, but it just seems like for another time, Noyon with better pace, but couldn't be quite as consistent. He'd gotten past Bill Lawrence, fallen back behind, and now he's back ahead of Bill Lawrence once again in this battle for 2nd place.
Well, Noyon made the pass in the Andretti hairpin last time by. This time, he'll get a bit of a slipstream off of Wally Mosby. We mentioned him a bit in the 23rd spot. Meanwhile, one more driver drops back in the grid. You see a spin this time from the yellow and blue machine you see up on your screen.
Yeah, Greg Garris joins an illustrious list of drivers to run out of rear grip in that difficult turn 8, or it must be turn 7 there. Again, I can't emphasize how difficult of a corner that is. You cannot see the apex until you've already turned into it. There's some weird banking there, and it's high speed and can be a bit too slippery.
Coming to 6 laps to go for many of these drivers, what do you think's going through the minds of, say, the drivers in this battle? Because a few of the drivers you see now here have been involved in a bit of tailspinness, to say the very least, and now they're trying to get their positions back with tires that might be a little bit hotter than compared to the ones who haven't spun around.
They'll know where they finished the previous race if you're, looking and on track to improve your result from race 1. And you really don't want to throw that away. But if you're, running 5 spots lower than you finished the previous race, then it's throw caution to the wind, do or die kind of stuff, isn't it?
It is, and right now, drivers such as Addy are right now in a running wide, struggling in their do-or-die situation. Remember, that's the battle for 10th on back. He's ran wide, running out of turn 6 along the curbing for 2, make it 3 straight laps, in fact, for that 111 machine. It's not been a good few laps. That lost him a spot to Morgan to drop him to 12th. He is starting to fall off as this track temp is at the hottest it's been all race.
Previous race, we were talking about some of the big winners, drivers who improved a lot on their grid spots. Russ Addy, unfortunately, not one of them. He started in the top 5. He's lost 7 spots since the start of the race. Not from throwing it into the wall, but just, some little spins, running wide, just not the consistency he would have wanted to match the great qualifying pace that he had in that orange machine.
Yeah, it's been a rough few laps, to say the least. Let's see how he does in the run to turn 6 on this attempt. You can see him taking a bit of earlier arc, and this time he has to take evasive action. There was a car stopped on the track. That's the 28th place machine of Michael Honsknecht, who went around on the exit to turn 6.
Normally you'd say that Russ Addy's line was very, very wide, but in this case you have to say great evasive maneuver that those guys didn't make contact with Honsknecht here.
Thing is, John Morgan may have had to go off the racetrack. A second rough race for him. He actually ended up going off in the corkscrew wall just after this, as he clipped the side of the curbing on the run to turn 7 before the corkscrew.
Here is the replay of that. How similar to Paul Stump's incident is this going to be? He was right up behind that 43 of Mark Robertson. No, this is before, at the top of the corkscrew. He's locked the rear brakes, struggling in the hot track temperatures. And there's a bit of a crest on the way into that braking zone. I think he just had a bit too much of the brake pedal on, locked those rears, and into the barrier he went.
And we also had problems for Shoemake and Baldwin, who made contact. Yes, indeed, a hard bit of contact that time. Poole might have sent around the driver from looking at the right machine there, but both Shoemake and Baldwin are off the racing surface because of that.
Yeah, unfortunate contact with 4 laps to go. That's not what you need at this point in the race, where they were looking to bring home a top 10, and it's cost some good results for some of those drivers. There's a lot of cars on the tow hook right now. Randy Shoemake, Kenneth Baldwin, Greg Garris, Richard Coulomb. We had a clean start to this race. Unfortunately, some drivers now getting caught out as the track temperatures continue to rise. That's been the story, is that from the drop of the green flag towards the end here, the track temperature rising, the grip going away. Russ Addy, though, now finally having a good time.
Yeah, he's up to 7th position with all the craziness. He ended up making a pass last time by through the exit of the corkscrew on the left side of the circuit on the run through the rainy curve. And that he also moved up in part with the attrition in front of him, so what was looking like a backwards run has turned into a potential best run out of the 2 races. Still -2 on the drop of the green flag, but he's just behind Drummer and company, about a second or so. Behind him a second or so is Robertson and Bob Kern, who look to fight before they make the checker flag with 3 laps to go this time.
Yep, these guys fighting once again, Robertson and Kern. Roaston's just come across the line and set the fastest lap of the race, and I don't know how, considering the track temperatures have continued to rise. So Stefan Roaston making his absolute mark on this new season of 60-plus racing adventures. Battles deeper in the field. There's this between Robertson and Kern. Erzmuller and Wally Molesby also fighting. So there's a race to be had for everyone somewhere.
It's been a different type of race, mind you, too. Last race, we were still in the 20s at this point of drivers on the lead lap. This race, we have 14 at the moment, with the leaders taking the 2 to go mark this upcoming time by here. This is a completely different race compared to the last time. As you look on board now with Bob Kern, it's been a completely different race for Kern. He's got a bit of front wing damage. However, when you compare that to the motor damage of the last race where he finished in 18th, looking a bit more sporty as he reels in Robertson, who ran wide last time through the corner.
And I think of all of the circuits that you could manage a little bit of damage on, I think this is one of them, because when you've got a tweak to the front or the rear wing on these cars, sure, it costs you a little bit of downforce, but it really seems to cost you top end speed more so than it actually costs you the grip. And the straight lines here nowhere near as long, and the top speed's not as high as some of the other circuits. So I think if you've got a good grip behind the wheel, you can kind of get away with it.
Should note the 10th place car last time by in Bruce Granheim. He spun around on the exit of turn number 6. Move him all the way back to 13th position. These drivers, though, taking the 2 to go mark at the moment. Here's a look at that 71 machine as he's finally making his way over the corkscrew. It took him about 10-15 seconds before he can get back on the track, though, because he was stuck in the sand trap.
And battle just behind him. It's Erzmuller, Wally Molesby battling over 16th and 17th. Both of these guys have improved quite a bit from their starting positions.
Hold on a second.
Problem for Roastgen. He's on the toe hook.
Yeah. Yes, he is off the track as the race leader. And I think he elected to... He ran over the corkscrew curbing and hit the left side. 12-second lead, and it's all gone. Noyon is in the lead, and he has just taken the white flag this time by. What in the world?
Looked like a bunch of steering damage there for Stefan Roastgen. Sure, he'll still take the 35 points from winning race 1, but now it looks like Noyon is on track to win race 2, which as they stand right now would mean that the two would leave round 1 sharing the lead of the championship, each on 35 points. Roastgen was on track to sweep races 1 and races 2. And I mentioned he grabbed the fastest lap of the race a couple laps ago. Maybe he's just continued to push too hard in pursuit of a faster lap. That is heartbreak with a couple laps to go for Roastgen. Track temperatures continue to be absolutely searing, and it's caught out Russ Addy as well. But it's the last lap. Noyon, he wanted that win in race 1. He didn't think it looked likely in race 2, and then suddenly he's been handed it on a platter.
Yeah, that MXS Racing machine about to have an absolutely crazy finish victory. It is Jean-Michel Noyon who will win race number 2 of the opening round of the 60-plus Racing Adventure season. Second place, Bill Lawrence, 4.5 seconds back. And then it's a massive gap all the way to Stephen Karkner, who is still trying to hold on in front of Bruce Poole and Kenneth Dummer. He will get the final podium spot, while Bob Kern and Mark Robertson continue to scrap.
Russ Addy's going to have to hold those guys off, and he just will through the final corner. Pretty close between all of these drivers. Robertson and Kern going to come towards the checkered flag in that order. Suddenly, this race has come alive in the last 2 laps. There's a couple other battles still going on here. You mentioned Bruce Granheim going for a spin. Well, now he's trying to get Ralph Kemmerer on the final lap.
Yeah, can he get the spot? This is for 11th position. Will be one of Granheim's best runs of the entire day. Diamonds his way off the final corner. Better run. Just couldn't get to Ralph Kemmerer, though, as this will be for 11th position, the 73 and 11th, the 71 and 12. Lewis Cannell is the last car on the track and is just elected to take it down the pit lane to come to the checkered flag. But an entertaining race number 2 to say the very least, David. And in the end, it is a driver who led just 1 lap in this race, but he's going to be happy with the 35 points to tie himself for the lead after round number 1. Jean-Michel Noyon comes away with the victory over Bill Lawrence, Stephen Karkner in 3rd. Bruce Poole and Kenneth Dummer rounds out the top 5 with Russ Addy in P number 6. Mark Robinson started in 14th, went +7 in the race in P number 7, with Bob Kern in 8th position, +8 for him. Jack Turner and David Riley quietly ran inside the top 10 of the checkered flag, David.
Ralph Kemmerer then gets 11th place. Bruce Granheim, 12th. Couldn't close him down on the final lap. Not far behind them, Louis Cannell with 13th place. Urs Muller in 14th is the first car a lap down ahead of Roberto Felipis in 15th, Wally Molesby in 16th there. Paul Stump, another tale of what could have been for him. He gets 17th position. Randy Shoemake there in 18th, Mark Lasson 19th, and Scott Gallo in 20th.
21st position, Richard Colomb in 22nd, Greg Gallus. But the biggest surprise of the race coming towards the final lap and a quarter. Stefan Rosgen taking the corner wide out of the corkscrew, launched up, hit the left side of the car into the concrete barrier, finishes 23rd. He was in the lead by 12 seconds at the time. Michael Hansknecht finish in 24th, with Michael Hilliard in 25th. Richard Valley 26th, Moore, Baldwin, Morgan, and McManus round out the top 30. Most of those drivers 6 laps down. The rest of the grouping was Douglas Beasley 6 laps down, 31st. Joe Martin 7 laps down and 32nd. Coppage 33rd, started in 3rd, spun out of turn 6 and collected Martin. Felton and Florison, along with Fred McIntosh, round out your 36 entrants in race number 2. An interesting round today here for the 60 Plus Racing Adventures. Let's take the chance to talk with Bill Lawrence. He was your second place finisher, and he came away with the podium spot. Bill, how would you compare race number 1 to your race number 2, coming away with second place and your best result in the round?
Well, I was lucky. I don't know what happened to Stefan, but that assisted me to move up a position. But I'd like to congratulate Steve Karkner. Steve was away last season. Well done, back in 3rd spot.
Indeed, an impressive run from him as well, and had some ups and downs. You had some ups and downs as well. How would you describe your race number 2 compared to your first one?
Okay, here's the thing. I think it's really important. Confidence. I lost confidence in that race on the corkscrew in the corner before it, and it cost me. I just couldn't get my foot off the brake.
Indeed, confidence is very important at this racetrack, but still a P2 finish in this one. Your thoughts heading into the next round? A decent points run for you overall to start the season.
Yes, I'm very happy, and hopefully I can maintain this level throughout the season, but we'll see what happens.
Indeed, especially since you guys are going to Lime Rock Park next, where it will be 35 laps and a standing start. Your thoughts on that track?
Well, with the new pavement, I'm not sure if we're running the new one or not. It's a different track altogether. But if we have a field like we did today, if traffic was a problem, well, it wasn't really a problem, but I mean, it'll be congested.
Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank for being a part of your race car?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the racers here. You know, I think we have 12 nations represented in our league, and great field today, great turnout. France and Germany are going to be hard to beat this season.
Indeed, thank you very much for the time, Bill. Congratulations on P number 2.
Thank you.
That was Bill Lawrence coming away second. Stephen Karkner came home in 3rd, started in 8th position. He's now standing by with David.
Well, pleasure to have you in the RaceSpot commentary box after race 2. Race 1, contact on the way towards the hairpin on lap 1. We're winding the tape back a little bit for me to ask you about that, but what happened there in race 1?
Yeah, I didn't really see Russ behind me, and I didn't think he would come in that close. So he just tapped my rear end, and it was a little bit of trouble, but it was okay.
Of course, the format in this championship means that you've come back stronger in race 2, and those are the points you'll take into the championship. So how gratifying is that then to take those couple of minutes after race 1, refocus and come back and stand on the podium for race 2?
Yeah, it's an unexpected pleasure. I didn't really pass anybody. Everybody just kept going off track in front of me, which was nice. 3rd is definitely a good spot to be in, and good points running into the first week.
2 races in a row where the track temperature just kept climbing and climbing and climbing in the California morning sun. adjusting your driving style at all from the drop of the green flag towards the checkered flag? Because the track temperature was definitely hot enough to crack an egg on by the end of the race.
Yeah, it was a little difficult keeping on the track the last 5 or 6 laps. If you watched, I probably went off 3 or 4 times. But I just slowed down just enough to keep my position. It was a good race.
Start of a new season of 60 plus racing adventures. I've definitely seen you around in a couple of races in this championship before. Thoughts on this new season? Is anything different in the way you're going to approach it? Do you have any different expectations? What's new for a new season?
Well, I'm committed to every race this season and just making sure that I get a finish. Last season I had a wee bit of trouble, so I dropped out and I took a break for a while. And this season I'm going to focus.
Well, I think you're off to a good start with a 3rd place finish. Thanks so much for dropping in and having a word with us. Anyone you would like to thank? Any parting words you need to deliver?
Well, thanks to 60 Plus for doing what they do. Thank you to RaceSpotTV for always providing us with a great race and good commentary. And thanks, David, for your input.
Always a pleasure. I'll throw it back over to you, Justin.
Thank you very much, David. Once again, that was Stephen Karkner standing by there. Your quick final thoughts before we say goodbye for tonight's action.
Well, just to say that you can never quite predict what's going to happen. Stefan Rostjan, defending champion, on pole for both races. Sure, he takes 35 points away from round 1, but Jean-Michel Noyon is going to pressure him, I think, all season long. And you can take nothing for granted because he had that qualifying pace, but it still came unstuck for him, unpressured, unforced in race 2. I think we're set for a good championship battle in this season. I think a worthy opponent has appeared for the reigning champion, and you're going to be able to catch a couple more of those races, including the finale on RaceSpot.
Yes, indeed. We're happy to have you on with us today. For David Haynes, for Hugh Ruiz, I'm Justin Prince saying so long from WeatherTech Raceway of Laguna, Seca. You've been watching the 60 Plus Racing Adventures Season 13 Opener. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.